What's going on, man?
What's up, good people? How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. How are you today?
Not bad at all. Not bad at all. Ready to talk some aliens.
What is up, chat? King's Advisors, hello. Matt Rissman, Star Wars Marvel purist, Star Wars Dog, my friend.
Who's that guy?
Yeah. So today we're going to be doing covering the Zimbabwe UFO landing. This happened in 1994. It's kind of hard to get like detailed information on this one, in my opinion. I don't know if you had the same kind of.
I've got some things.
Yeah, so it's a smaller one. There's gonna be a lot of speculation today, and just kind of correlation with other what's it called, incidents. So basically, what happened in September of 1994, at a schoolyard in Zimbabwe, there were it was 60 children that saw this thing in the schoolyard. And they claimed that hey, what's up, Benjamin? So they had claimed that there was one main UFO, and then like some of the kids said there was 2 or 3 of them surrounding it, but it lands in these trees like surrounding the school, and they all run towards it. And then once they see it, they obviously freak out. It's your classic grays is what they were during interviews, what they'd said they saw. So that's actually a very good image
drawing from the kids.
Definitely. And so, when they're interviewing the teachers, they kind of spoke. You can leave that up.
Okay.
Just leave it up for a bit, I guess. Maybe find some other ones. But yeah, so they're interviewing the teachers, and the teachers are like, we were really skeptical about it at the beginning, but once they started to really talk to all the children and their different stories, that's when they started to kind of be like, okay, these kids saw, they saw something. And the interesting part about that and the accounts of the children was that there's this. His name Do you remember from the documentary we watched? His name was Randall, or maybe that was a different one that I watched.
I believe it was Mark.
Well, Mark. Okay, so Mark. That might have been it. I see what you're saying. No. So I was thinking of John Mack. John Mack interviews them like right after the incident. It was
the BBC guy.
Yeah. So
okay. So yeah, this generated a whole lot of interest.
John Mack?
The BBC caught on, and just talk about the sighting and the encounter. Also, may I preference as well that 2 days before this incident at the school happened, there's also reported sightings in the area of other people seeing items as well. Like one person described it looking like a cigarette, kind of like a streak with a shiny tip. And another one said it was like a saucer, and it was kind of zipping back and forth. And these were adults that claimed to see this a day, 2 days before that. Nice. So yeah, then the school visitation happened, and got the kids all spunked up.
All right, so let's stop there for a second. Let me bring in a few people here. We got the wonderful X-Wing. Hey, buddy.
How's it going, boys?
Going well. How are you?
Pretty good. Oh, good. I'm tired.
And then one other person.
Thank you for the warning. I was ready for him, but it's much easier if the cops do it. Don't we agree?
What's up, Rolo?
What's up, buddy? So yeah, X-Wing, you familiar with this story?
No, I haven't heard anything about it.
Are you familiar with the Varginha case in Brazil?
No.
James Fox?
Ooh,
okay.
No.
So they're very similar. They're very similar. Like it was multiple eyewitnesses.
Actual beings.
Yeah. So this one was in 1994. I was just explaining, and they it was a schoolyard of children that saw this UFO land.
Yes. Okay, I do know that one. Yeah.
It's insane, man.
The Ariel School.
The
Yeah.
Ariel.
Didn't
Yeah.
they,
That's
like the
right,
thing
Ariel.
actually came down and landed, and they came out and they like
Yeah.
talked
Yep.
to the kids. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
and that's something I wanted to get into. So they didn't actually talk. A lot of the kids were just terrified, just downright scared. And you know, so there was one interview of it. So John Mack, he's this, he went to, what college was it? He went to Harvard University.
Harvard.
He specialized in
Psychiatry.
Psychiatry for children. And so he goes to interview them just to see if, like, you know, is it like, did this actually even happen? And he said he felt none of them were lying, which is really the compelling part of this story. And some of the children were saying, like, you know, we felt scared. They looked frightening, like normal, like what a kid should say about some being that they saw, you know, a gray. But then the interesting part for one of them was, like, she had this feeling after she went home for the night, and she said it was a different kid, but she was saying that she thinks, you know, that she felt like this feeling that there was no more air left on the earth and that we were destroying the earth. And that's where I got kind of skeptical. Like, I don't know, like, how true that could be, but it was like an intuition she was explaining. Not obviously not those words.
That she got this feeling as if they were trying to tell her about the end of the world. That's what she
said. And and the way that she had said it was that, like, that we're not taking care of our planet. And that's where I got kind of skeptical about the whole thing. But, you know,
like it's a psyop.
Kind of.
These are climate change activist aliens that came and visited.
That's exactly where I was going with it, which is kind of funny.
Well, I mean, if they're harvesting water or something like that, then they might to keep the earth fine.
Now the why I brought up the Virginia case was because those during that landing and encounter, the
crash,
the people that saw it and were involved in that story said that the alien, like, telepathically communicated with it. And that's kind of the consistency I wanted to bring up with this one, that something similar might have happened there too, because I don't even think they had mouths. Do you guys remember looking at it when you were looking at it?
Some kids claimed they had mouths. One even claimed they had a nose, but all of them accounted that it was a dark figure, and they all came running up to the adults and whatnot, and were claiming that there was a little black man on the other side of the fence that was staring at us, which was kind of funny. But so a lot of them accounted for just this short in stature. One kid said like a sixth grader size wise, and a lot of them just claimed that it was like all black except for the face. Some kids said the face was pale, but most of them said that that the eyes were ovally like this and oblong in the exact direction as this painting here, but were also the like it was reversed for us. So the pupils were supposed to be white, and the rest of the eye was all black.
So this is the new event that happened?
No,
this was in '94.
This is okay. This is the old one.
Okay, we'll explain the new one though.
But it correlates with what happened in Brazil, which is the newer one. That happened when? Do you guys remember? We did an episode on it a while ago. I forget.
Yeah, I don't remember what year it was. I want to say it was it early 2000s or late 90s?
One thing I wanted to ask all of you guys was, if it was not real, what do you think this could be? Because this is 60 children saying the same thing, and like 20 years later they're interviewed and they're saying the same thing, and some of the kids, like, their interview wasn't aired the first time. So, you know, what would you guys think it could be if these kids weren't lying, but it wasn't a UFO?
Virginia was 96, so it was 2 years after this.
Yeah, late 90s.
it was right around.
I thought it was older as well. Yeah,
mid-90s.
Which actually makes that more interesting. But maybe we go around the horn real quick and just like, Dog, what do you think it could be? Like, if it was aliens.
So in this case, it correlates with a lot of other lore that has happened, including the shape of the craft, the abilities of the craft, and then what the personnel look like, or the beings look like. It all, I don't know, it's it's like standard issue UFO lore.
Yeah.
And this does not seem like drone technology, unless they just have, they're recruiting horse jockeys, and they have to be so small for these things. But I was gonna say this for the end, but right now feels like a good time to pose it. Why do you feel like they landed at a school, of all places? Landed at a school, and some kid said, actually, a couple of kids said that they got within a meter of them.
Yeah,
they were close.
One child had said that she felt like it wanted to grab her. So
yes,
there
was also a boy that was like, I thought it was all cool, and he was a hard ass. But
for kids, I think I'm sorry, if you're gonna abduct someone, it's probably a lot easier to do it for someone half the size of a grown male, or less than half the size, right? Quarter of the size.
So an interesting perspective that I heard about this is maybe it's because they know there was no threat at the school, so they could land there and have no, like, it's not like they're landing at a military base where all the guns are pointed at them,
Yeah, that's my thought. It's kind of like,
exactly.
What's weird for me is, so this is, mid-90s, kids at a school in Brazil is where it was.
No, this was Africa, Zimbabwe.
Okay, so even better, right?
This is
like they're not watching like Ancient Aliens. They're not watching the History Channel. Like, they have no frame of reference for the size and shape of this thing. But it also lines up perfectly with everything that basically, like Bob Lazar was saying, that the pilots of this craft would have had to have been this size and shape. It would have made sense for them to be, so. The stuff kind of lines up in terms of why they would have landed at a school. I have to agree that, maybe it makes sense that they would perceive there was no threat. Why would they want to touch them? Maybe, if I'm landing on an alien planet, I'm going to watch like everything I can about the species and be like, okay, why do they act this way? Well, this species uses touch to show like affection and to communicate that you're friendly, handshakes, hugs, That's that familial connection. So maybe they were trying to do that. I don't
also
know.
An interesting perspective too. If you want to listen to the one girl that claimed to have these impressions and visions of climate disaster, and
oh no,
I think something happened with his camera again.
Yeah.
But if you're,
I think you just noticed.
If that was the goal, right? That these beings were in fact trying to get across a message about the fate of the planet and what we're doing to it, and they were climate change activists, perhaps their ideas were to reach this message out to the generation that's going to be responsible in the future.
So this is a very interesting point, and it's something I ask myself all the time. Like, why is that?
So
go ahead.
Okay, so
your mic's not working, X-Wing.
I think there's a good point there, but also, why is there the same depictions of these figures all over the world? And there's ancient drawings, there's all these other things. So at the same time, you can say that, why is there an emoji on your phone that looks like that? Because that's just what people assume they look like, because it's always been ingrained in our head that that's what they look like.
Okay, I think I got it.
Yeah, you did.
You're good.
So I would say it's just like these kids in Africa had no frame of reference at all for what aliens would look like. they have like no frame of reference. Like, why do they always look that way? Well, maybe there's some merit to this, you know?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And to Justin's point, you know, like I think UFO. So I think it's, if you're deep into this stuff, you know that like most UFO sightings and encounters started right after the bomb was dropped in Japan.
Yes.
And you got to think about the timing on that. And most of these like sci-fi shows didn't start until after that as well. And that's kind of my first inclination to say, like, that would be my pushback to that is like, yeah, they look like that because there were probably a bunch of people in the movie stuff that either heard or had experiences themselves and didn't talk about it and just started making movies about it. So that's my personal viewpoint on like why they tend to look like that. And you know, it's, again, like we're just going down the rabbit hole.
There's also a good point there that I want to bring up, though.
Yeah, 1 second. I don't necessarily 100% like believe all of these different stories, but I do believe this stuff has happened to a bunch of different people. You know, I just don't know if these individual stories are correct. And look, one of the teachers had said for this specific case that she goes, I was skeptical, but when you have 60 children coming to you and telling you the same story, we couldn't it's so, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but back in like middle school and elementary, it was hard to get us organized just to sing a song together, you know?
Or lie about something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Everybody stick to their gun for over 20 years. Nobody has come out and said that it was a hoax. Nobody's come out and said, no, that wasn't real. Every kid, because people have followed up with a lot of these kids later on in life.
Yep.
And a lot of them, it's reshaped the direction of their future too. Like the girl that was talking about the climate change stuff, she now works for that kind of future.
Not surprised.
So, yeah, right.
It's the psyop.
She was drinking the Kool-Aid way back in the day.
Imagine having to change your computer graphic.
Well, about the Hollywood thing, like, it's known that Hollywood likes to put things in movies before people realize it. Like phones.
Predictive programming.
Exactly. Like cell phones and like LED lights and shit are in like Star Trek and Star Wars. You know, like things like that. Like they'll put something simple just to get the people used to it. So then when a cell phone comes out that you can walk around with, it doesn't really matter.
No, it's just it's really interesting to think about though, right? Like if you had one or two kids coming up to you and be like, I saw a UFO, you know, like that, you could easily be like, all right, go play.
Yeah, and then Sally's like, bullshit. They were doing something they weren't supposed to be doing.
Exactly. 60 kids, though, like, it's kind of hard to discount that.
What about the teacher?
What about that? There's multiple teachers.
So they were having, conveniently, a staff meeting at the school. Again, this was in the 90s, and we weren't hawkeyeing over children. There weren't 15.
Also Africa.
Right then.
It's Africa.
But, so the one adult that was out there was in like a snack shop or whatever for recess, and
did she
was
see it?
not in a orientation to be able to see where this occurred. And the first two girls that came running in, she thought that they were trying to play a trick on her to get her to leave the
snack shop so they can all rob that.
So they can get after it. You know? Yeah. But then they ran inside, and there was multiple girls were just hysterical, and they were like, okay, something weird happened. Like this is too coordinated to make sense.
Okay, I'm not reading that out loud. That's so fucked up. Yeah, you know,
that's the second thing that doesn't make sense here. Okay.
Yeah.
Joking.
Yeah,
like this is the gaggle of kids here. I mean, I just got it muted, but
yeah, don't play the volume. I got clipped.
Well, that's because we tried to watch the entire History Channel video.
Are they speaking like Dutch or something there? What is that?
I don't. They speak English, but
I know, but it's the writing looks like Dutch.
Oh, I don't have volume.
It's like close to German, but not quite.
Yep.
But yeah.
They refer to this as a post-colonial area. So
will you get struck if you play some of like the actual documentary, or
I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know. I don't want to risk it after.
Just link the
year.
documentary.
Yeah,
The documentary in the chat.
It's only 50.
I mean, I watched a couple, but yeah.
It's dope.
Super crazy.
So, Dawg,
Yes.
you got anything? Anything?
Yeah, I guess
the
the tidbits that I would add is or compile on is like you said, like 60 of these kids all accounted for it. Now, yes, they don't all align, but a lot of key points like what the figure looked like and the shape of the craft, and almost unanimously they all felt like they were in a state of paralysis in a way, and that they literally just couldn't look away. That could also be just
shock.
Absolutely, yeah, pissing down your leg, frozen in fear. But yeah, some of the variability, but of course there's been multiple studies on the way the human memory perceives things, like the classic case of what was it? One college, a professor ran in, did something crazy and screamed, and said some crazy line. And then the next guy comes in and asks each person, and they all have a different account of what just happened.
Yeah,
for sure.
Like that happens in grown ass adults, let alone children with their imagination, what they try to make sense of what happened. But like I said, there are a lot of things that, even though some like colors or exaggerations may differ, the core story lines up with a craft landed, beings got out, one was on top and one was coming to the fence. And some were claiming that the being coming towards the fence wasn't walking. It wasn't touching the ground. It was almost hovering.
They said it was almost hovering or hopping.
Yeah. It was like us on the moon, basically, something like that, but never really touching the ground.
Yeah, that's another really cool point too. Is like, so two things. One, it would make sense if they're smaller, where they're from would have heavier gravity, right?
Yes.
The other thing too would be, if there really is a craft that landed, and this gives credence to it, anything that exists on this planet, you would hear it coming in and landing. And if there's somebody in the vicinity, like, working in a snack shop, you would hear a helicopter, you'd hear a VTOL, you'd hear a Harrier coming in.
So one thing I want to touch on that is
great point, Alex.
Is that so I've always, like, Bob Lazar had said they're close to silent, like in his story, and so I've always considered that these UFOs, like, because they're not using a propulsion system. They're not using propulsion system. They're using some sort of gravity device.
Element
like
115. 15, yeah.
Potentially. No, we don't fully understand that either.
That is the element, though, and that element has been synthesized. We know this. Like,
for like 2 seconds.
It's unstable, but they've made it. Humans have made the element, which is a huge, factor to put into this. But one of the children had said that it sounded like a whistle, or someone was playing the flute.
Yeah.
And, that made me a little skeptical when I was listening to this story, because it's like,
that's how it started out.
Yeah.
Well, no, they said when they came out, it sounded like a flute was being played.
But I know that's where I get skeptical, though, because I've always considered, like,
I'm not trying to lure the children to the fence.
I'm not a physicist, so I won't be able to really talk too much on this, but I guess if you're moving at certain speeds, you would hear a whistle just from the wind hitting off of the physical object.
Yeah.
True.
Well, they didn't say it was from the UFO, though. They said it was when the aliens came out that they heard the flute.
I thought it was from the craft.
So that's why I'm saying
he was asking if it was a roar.
That's one sound that would lure children to a fence. Like, what's that?
Maybe I think flute was just a way to describe like a pitch or a tone more than just a roar or something like that,
And
like
that could be anything,
sound.
dude. I mean, if you're
That's
compressing the air in front of it, it could be blowing through a tree or whatever.
Yeah. I'm just throwing that one out there, but
yeah, I don't know.
Maybe there was a bottle next to the craft and it was good.
Yeah.
So something else too. So a lot of kids went home and told their parents, and some of the parents came back there to the school because this was right outside the school grounds.
Gotcha.
And they came back there, and one of the accounts from one of the kids, once they grew up, now they're in their 20s, you know, well, at the time of filming, they were in their 20s, but she was saying that her and her dad went and investigated the spot, and the spot where the craft should have been had a circle that looked like it was burnt, and all the insects and everything were all dead there. So it seemed like a spot where it actually landed. But like that's the only account of that, because a lot of people went over there and surveyed it. So I don't know if that's just something she drew up in her mind, or if that was actually there and people have just left it out.
Yeah, that's
interesting.
I mean, look, if they're using some high radiation or some element that gives off high radiation, that could make sense. I mean, I guess it could make sense too with the propulsion system, but
they also most of the kids described them disappearing. They didn't get back in the craft and take off. Most of the kids described them just disappearing.
Now that I'm highly skeptical of.
Cloaking technology. What if?
Yeah.
I mean, what if they're wearing black suits or something, and then it's like, okay,
you know,
that's been long enough.
Boop. Your brain could provide a lot of cloaking technology too. So that's what I'm saying is I feel like that could also be like holes or gaps in memory, right? Because I mean,
this was when they like weeks after when they came and interviewed and you know, questioned each kid. Their accounts were that they didn't fly away, they vanished.
Yeah, so that's easy to describe, I feel like. I mean, look, so you look at like an IR camera, we already have active camouflage. We already know how to fool IR cameras. Like what's an eye? It's just a lens, right? So you know, if you can have faster than light travel, being able to distort light in a way that your photoreceptors don't see it, like
yeah,
cake.
She gone.
Yeah.
You can't see me.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
Doing the old John Cena.
Yes.
Dude. Yeah, this one's it's pretty interesting. X-Wing, you should look into the Brazil case, because that one is even more compelling and there's a lot more information on it. Like a full city of people saw it.
I call for a mulligan on our first one. I think we need to redo.
100%. We can revisit that.
Yeah. He actually died as well during that case.
Multiple people died.
Did you know we have a line item in our military for like basically death by extraterrestrial equipment?
Yep.
Really?
Yeah, like there was one crash, like the thing busted open and it might have been that element 115 or whatever the case is. Like the dudes walk up to it and they're like and just died. And they write it as a line item. They're like, soldier died because of that.
In the case of the Virginia one, the man who ended up dying was like he was a local soldier that went and actually carried the alien into 3 different hospitals because they all turned him down. But within like a week or 2, he died of a bacterial infection that they could not diagnose and they could not treat whatsoever. And
he also had like 6 different cancers or something like that when they found out.
I've only heard about the bacterial infection.
Something I want to like talk about too is like I'm not really 100% sure these are biological beings. Like so, they even said too.
They didn't have a mouth.
No. During the congressional hearing not too long ago, they talked about how, or I forget the guy's name, but he specifically, the whistleblower, talked about how they have biologicals. Like, what does that? That's such a blanket statement and so vague. Like, okay, biological. Like, does that mean alive? Like, is it a biological drone of some sort? And that's something that I'm really like starting to subscribe to, that like maybe it's a lot easier to travel through space where you can kind of download your consciousness per se, like into, and well, that could be my kind of creative part of my mind speaking right now. Well, it definitely is, right? But like it's, yeah, what up?
What if it's more of a time thing than it is a space thing?
What do you mean time?
Well, that's what I was thinking.
Oh,
Time
actually,
travel.
Your mic went out again.
That's what I was thinking, dog.
Yeah. What if it's possibly a time thing and that explains the vanishing?
Yeah,
I had myself muted.
Oh.
Okay.
That they appeared, but then they.
Oh God!
That damn
I gotta
thing.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay,
You're fine.
I gotta get this shit figured out. But what I was trying to say is, anytime you distort gravity, you distort time.
Yes.
True. But I mean more in the actual time traveling,
the traditional sense.
You can only go. You can only go forward. You can't go backward.
That we comprehend now.
Right, and it's space and time, right? So if you're distorting gravity and you're traveling through space, you're traveling through time. Like the stars we see out in the night sky, they say there should be one inhabitable planet surrounding each star, right? Potentially. That's what they say. But yeah, it's really interesting to think about. And you know, in that Virginia case, they talk about how the telepathical messages were very similar, actually. That like, oh, we need to look out for the world that we live in, but also it was like, I'm scared, please help me. Like, and that one, they found the three children, that not children, but it was like a woman of like 20 and then like adolescents. Like they had said like, yeah, this thing was like in fear for its life. It was like glossy, the skin or whatever, so it looked like it was already deteriorating, and the stench of it was like horrible. So you know there's some sort of like
ammonia.
Right, or like the worst, like a skunk times 1,000 is how they explain it.
And the one girl said that it didn't leave her nostrils for months. She couldn't.
Yeah, that one lady had said that.
That could be some byproduct of the ship, though.
It could be, yeah. I mean,
when the ship crashed, man, he got splashed with something.
Well, but also if they are biological life and they're here, the atmosphere is so much different, right? And if with this case, like the hovering and the kind of low gravity like movements they were making, so if their skin isn't accustomed to being in our atmosphere, it would make sense that like flesh starts decaying right when they get exposed to it, you know, unless they had some
massive sort of radiation from the sun.
Yeah, maybe they're not attuned to the sun.
That's possible.
Maybe their planet's further away in their.
Well, it would have to be with the way their eyes are formatted. They would have to gather a massive amount of light,
right?
Yeah.
Well, it's also interesting that one guy who was driving down the road when it crashed, because the military pulled up, and then he said the Americans pulled up and they held him for a while and then released him, told him never to speak of it. And then when he was questioned,
surprised they didn't just blow his brains out and leave him in a ditch somewhere.
That's what I'm saying. But the Americans showed up. That's the interesting thing.
So I found that thing I was talking about. So it turns out it was a Tucker Carlson podcast, which is probably going to make everybody be like, whatever. But it was a Stanford professor who studied traumatic brain injuries in 100 different troops who died from the encounters. They all died. So these things landed on military bases. Servicemen approached them and they got a traumatic brain injury or died. That's by walking up to it.
Jeez.
Yeah, it would make sense too in terms of like radiation probably is what killed them. That there are also other accounts that James Fox guy was bringing up before. He claims that he's talked to military personnel who've seen these two. I don't know what section of the army or from the military they're from, but they had an experience like this, and they're like they didn't die, but their brain was fried, like melted, like they were incoherent. They couldn't speak anymore.
My question is, did these guys die after this guy from the government spoke to them?
Yeah, that's
Like, is that when they were diagnosed? Because I smell something fishy.
That's perfect.
That's so perfect. Dude.
Man, my parents used to be crazy about that show.
That show is a good show.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. The whole thing, there's the reason there's so much speculation is because there's so much different technology you would never even have any idea of not only how it works, but how it would affect the human body.
Yep.
Mhm.
Well, this stuff is like incomprehensible, I would say. Like we know what we grew up with and the technology that we understand, which is why I think a lot of this stuff gets passed off as bullshit, because the average human is gonna be like, no, look, we know this, we know how this works, we know how this works, but this is all stuff that humans have come to understand. Like, if there's another life form that could be here, we're not going to understand how their technology works.
We can't comprehend it.
Bro, have you ever seen an octopus go to a coral reef and turn into a piece of coral? Like,
exactly.
that shit is wild.
Texture changes,
and it's not only texture, it's color, and they can blend in with their environment. That's cloaking, right?
Imagine being an alien and just coming down here and seeing.
I think cephalopods are alien. I don't think they're from this planet.
Dude, the octopus theory.
Wild. They're pretty wild.
The octopus theory, that is a theory that like
that's what I'm saying.
The octopus came on a meteor of some sort. Now,
them bitches were in a comet when they ended began the Younger Dryas.
Well,
dude, we had one at my work before, and it was crazy.
Yeah, it's a little sad that people they get sold in the.
I know,
but anyway, I digress. Since we're on the topic of the ocean, a lot of these like sightings, these recent ones, are of, and I forget the actual terminology for it, but we don't have the technology to go from underwater to like airborne flight, and a lot of these like Tic Tacs and stuff,
they're just
oh yeah, or they'll see like jets will see them fly out of the water and just blast off into the atmosphere. So it's like, what really.
Well, if you're creating a gravity bubble above you, there would be no water pressure.
There'd be no resistance.
Yeah, you just zoop.
Well, also think about it. If you're trying to hide on Earth, where's the best place to hide?
I was going to say the same thing.
Into the deep.
Yeah, you don't want to hide in the jungle
down there.
Go to the Marianas Trench, man.
Yeah,
we ain't gonna see it. James Cameron's dumbass went down there once. That was it.
Like, if you can travel
you're good, bro.
Space,
yeah, remember the last submarine that tried?
If you can travel through the insane pressure,
too soon. Too soon.
I'm gonna throw this camera in the trash. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back.
Yeah, you're good.
If you could literally travel through space in that insane pressure, the water pressure is nothing to you.
Yeah, but it's more so. I was trying to bring up what our technological feats have been, and we have submarines.
We have submarines that blow up.
Well, exactly. We have submarines that can traverse water, but can't go to certain depths. Like once it gets to a certain line, they're like, we just physically can't do that. And we have ships that can fly at like what? I think we're at like Mach 3 or something, right?
Yeah, Mach 3. Unless you're
Dog, do you know?
Do what? Sorry.
The fighter jets we have right now, they go at like Mach 3, or do they go higher?
Oh, I don't know. I always just say Mach Jesus, but
Mach Jesus. Well, but they're talking about
dogism
going like 3,000 miles per hour or something like that.
Yeah, these things are insane. They can go.
Don't quote me on that.
In a couple minutes.
Transmedial.
Yes, that is the word. Transmedial. Yeah.
Got it.
Did you Google it?
No.
Oh no.
No. But it was killing me. That's why I wasn't focused there for a second.
You muted again, X.
So
here we go.
X-Wing, I'm interested by your opinion. So like, I would say the most compelling story we have so far is the Bob Lazar one. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Like,
man,
in correlation to this one too. I don't know how many stories you looked into. I think the Bob Lazar story has the most evidence and the most.
Yeah, I went down that rabbit hole.
He's got
hard
such consistency.
Yeah, so I went down that rabbit hole hard, and there's and by the way, with the Mach thing, the Dark Star is already out. The Dark Star, they put that in the new Top Gun.
Yeah.
You remember in the new Top Gun, he's in that thing and he's trying to go like Mach 9. Like that thing is 100% real. It's totally real.
So we're well past Mach 3.
Well past Mach 3 with that particular craft. I don't know about anything else. Honestly, I'm not an aviator, but
more than likely in a straight line though. I wouldn't turn in Mach 3 or Mach 9.
No, that thing would explode. And these things are doing like Mach 4, and they're turning on a dime. So that's the crazy part. But, yeah, when it comes to the Bob Lazar thing, I mean, there is just every question you would have, there's an answer for. And a lot of times, like at some point you run out of rope and people are like, dude, this is BS. But like every single question you would have is answered. And he's even thought of them and gone back with other people to these places where they're like, that guy never worked there. You know, the government's like, oh, shit, like trying to cover it up. And Bob goes back there and they're like, oh, hey, Bob. And he's like, didn't I tell you?
And they erased.
He's on a call registry that a former employees.
And they erased his college background.
Yeah.
Like, and so
that part alone is convincing enough for me. The fact that stuff was wiped.
Yeah.
And he can go back and confirm it. That should be enough at that point. But then when he goes on to talk about, you know, basically at this point, we haven't figured out. Not only have we not figured out what it is, we haven't been able to figure out how to figure out what it is yet. So every 20 years, they bring it back up. Hey, let's take a crack at it, kids. And like, it doesn't work. Okay, 20 years later, let's do it again.
And not only that, sorry, real quick. Not only that, like one of the things that gets me like really going is like the FBI raids his house like every decade.
Yeah.
Because and he's heavily implied like, I may or may not have some Element 115.
Yeah, he took some shit. And there's that home video too, where he's messing with it on home video.
Oh, but he never worked for him.
Yeah,
he never.
Yeah, the Dark Stars. They put it in the new flight simulator. Believe it or not, you can get to like Mach 9. It's nuts. You have to fly up. You fly inverted, and then you get into like I don't remember what layer of the atmosphere it is, and then you turn it on. You hit these afterburners, and you cross the United States in like 24 minutes.
Is that like a Top Gun like DLC or something?
Holy shit.
Yeah, it's in the Top Gun DLC. It's extremely hard. It's extremely difficult. And yeah, if you shift even a little bit, it's like mission failed. Your airframe was stressed too much. Like you died.
Yeah.
That's awesome though.
I like with the Bob Lazar, I like Joe Rogan's angle of when people try to discredit, like why would the government be interested in you at all if you didn't work for these labs? Well, I like his angle because he was like, well, they found this crafty guy who put a jet engine in the back of his Volkswagen and made the car run off the jet engine. Like, this sounds like the kind of guy that they could use and possibly paint as a nut in the future if they have to. Like, of course. But I also find super compelling Bob's point of, like, the science just doesn't happen the way that he says that they were trying to make it happen. Like, you have one guy studying this part and one guy studying this part. They're not allowed to talk to each other. They're not allowed to compare notes. And, like, almost nothing gets done. Like, he was like, I don't fucking know what to do with this.
And like, dude, that's just a classic way of not allowing leaks to happen. Like, people do that in the film industry, right? Like, they'll release a whole bunch of different scripts so that they know who to fire when that gets leaked. You know, like, so it's the same kind of concept, I think. Yeah, it's like you don't want people talking. One of the ways to do that is with actual misinformation.
Just how is he not dead? That's my question. Like, how is Bob Lazar not dead?
Because I think my theory is that if they were to just assassinate him, it would validate his story even further.
Yeah, but what's okay? Yeah, but what's assassinate? I mean, it makes it out into the papers. Bob Lazar dead of a heart attack, 47 or however old he is.
I think because he's so public now that like eyes would be on the story even more, and they don't want the story. But you have a fair point. It's like
some prominent
they could kill him. They could kill him.
I wouldn't be surprised to see the headline come out: Bob Lazar suicides himself in the back of the head.
But back to the story, or back to what I had said previously. If he actually has like an amount of physical element 115 hidden somewhere, they probably don't want to kill him because they need that. You know, they want that.
They would have
element.
found it. I feel like they would have found it.
I don't think so. He probably has it so well hidden that like they won't just be they're not able to just find it, right? Like
he could, dude. Maybe he's playing chess with him. He's like, by the way, I have this 115. If you kill me,
actually
this other person is instructed to release this.
I never thought about that.
So that's you goose me, it's out, dog. It's all out.
Which would explain the FBI raids. Like they're, you know, it's
they're
like
trying to find it at random.
Trying to catch him with his pants down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you could be
probably
totally
has
right.
a time or two.
He could just be fucking with them and being like, "I've got this stuff. Don't kill me."
I have 3 assets that, like, if I die, this all goes out.
Yeah. But him,
it's so
him
wild.
every time they raid him, this is him.
Thank you for the warning. I was ready for him, but it's much easier if the cops do it. Don't we agree?
I love that clip.
He's killing me lately, dude.
Oh God, so funny.
He is killing me lately. Anyway, let's not go down that rabbit hole.
What's
I have
up,
to pee.
Gina?
I'll be right back.
Okay,
This is the rabbit hole.
Right.
Yeah, dude, this one. Okay, so again, like, you know, we're kind of off topic of the Zimbabwe case. There isn't as much information. Like, I think we've covered most bases.
I've got something.
You got more? Let's
so
wait. Let's bullshit until X-Men gets back.
Yeah, if you want to round it out.
No, I mean, I've spoke to, like, and to be honest, I left my notes at work. Which I'm a good employee. I take alien notes while I'm on the job, but
that's right.
No, I pretty much said my piece. If you'd like to kind of take it from here, for that.
So I guess kind of like in closing, more of I think what makes this so compelling is that you have so many accounts, because you have these 60-some kids that all witnessed this, and all the adults that corroborate that they've all witnessed it, and then all the news covers that happened very swiftly. Like they had the Harvard guy out there within 2 weeks of the incident.
John Mack.
John Mack. So this all happened very quickly, and you have multiple stories, which again, they have differing variables, but at the core, something fucking landed, and there was beings outside that craft.
And
at the core of the story, that's what happened.
So because we were just talking about Bob Lazar, the most compelling part about that, in my opinion, he said the same shit since the beginning.
Consistency.
Exactly.
Another guy comes in after John Mack with the Zimbabwe case and interviews kids that weren't, their interview with John Mack wasn't even released. And they had the same story still. So that's the most compelling.
Too, he also interviewed kids from different grades, and they were like, no, these kids were freaked the fuck out.
Exactly. That's actually a good point, that like there were kids who weren't even at the school that day that were interviewed, and they're like, do you believe your friends? And they're like, yeah, you know. And again, this is testimony from children
and like brothers and family and stuff like that. But they were like, these kids were really scared.
Yeah, it's very hard, especially as a psychiatrist from Harvard. Like, that's an Ivy League school.
Yeah,
like you don't get
specializes in interviewing people that have gone through trauma.
Like, you don't have to believe the story, but you should take into account the fact that there are people from a prestige school like that have taken the time to interview and actually document this stuff, and have been like, I don't know if what they saw was an alien, but I know that they're not lying about what they saw. Right. And I don't even think that John Mack, I haven't done too much digging on who John Mack is and what other stuff he's interested in. Like, if he's blabbering about a bunch of ghosts and stuff, I might be a little bit like,
the Harvard man died in a, he was hit by a drunk driver.
Yeah. I think in 2004.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know, it's to the point though. This is someone that's not like just bullshitting people. I think he genuinely was like, okay, he probably read the story, was like, all right, I need to make my way out there. I know children's psychology. I'm gonna try to figure this out and see if they're lying. And he brings up during his interviews and during the documentary, like Oh, that's so funny. Sorry, I didn't mean to get off track, but Caleb's comment's hilarious.
Yeah.
Drunk driver, Clinton bullet. I thought the same damn thing when I was listening to it. But this is a guy that like is coming out and saying like, yeah, you know, I think they're telling the truth. And that's why I think that's funny, is because it's like, who knows? Like, maybe at that time they did not want this information getting out. Let's go have him kill himself, right? I need my tinfoil.
Dude, just like sidebar really quick. Did you guys see the movie No One Will Save You on Hulu?
No,
Not yet.
If you like alien stuff,
oh yeah,
watch that movie.
I mean, I do a podcast on it, so yes.
Legitimately, like a lot of people ripped on the movie. I thought it was so good, and it's such good alien stuff. I mean,
and you said they have a different take on it, right?
it's different because like the main protagonist doesn't speak for like the whole movie. So it completely relies on like the sounds and the music and everything like that to create suspense, which I think is so much better.
So
like A Quiet Place.
One thing like threw me off is you brought up the movie in your Discord. I was like, okay, I'll check out the trailer, and I did, and it kind of gave me the idea or the feeling that like the aliens are bad and they're here to take us over or something like that.
Watch it.
Okay, I will.
That's a good point. I disagree. Like, if these are actual physical beings that are coming here and visiting,
LOL.
I don't think they're here to exterminate or take over or anything
we'd be
like
dead
that.
Already.
Because if they wanted to, they would have.
Yeah, we'd be
100%.
I'm all for the Independence Day and let's give them hell. But if they mastered traversing space,
they can wipe us out like the Covenant with 24 hours.
Dude, maybe they don't know what the hell weapons are. They're like, wait, kill each other. Why would you kill each other? Like physically kill the other thing? Why would you do that?
Well, and to bring to that point, there have been it's George Knapp, who was the one that released the Bob Lazar story.
Yeah.
He actually went to Russia during the Cold War and was able to get an asset from the KGB and got documents of a nuclear facility, and there was a UFO that was hovering above this base, and it turned on all of the nukes and then shut the whole base down.
Yep.
And so it's the same. Like that part of me is like, okay, maybe and
trying to tell us like, hey,
well, James Fox talks about this story and says, look, George Knapp did what I just said, and goes like, maybe it's like having it's like a child with a matchbox.
Yeah.
Lights the match, and an adult comes over and takes the match from them and blows it out, right? Like,
what about like the operation in Antarctica, where our 5-star admiral or 4-star admiral that went down there with the UN literally to take out some.
Who's McAfee?
Oh, you're talking about the expedition where they found the hole in Antarctica?
Yeah, they found some like
a civilization down there.
Well, apparently Nazi equipment, but they fought a UFO. There's like actual military documents of them fighting the UFO for like 14 hours.
That could be an episode.
Yeah, let's.
But could you imagine being one of the Russians in that nuclear facility? I mean, you would just.
What do you think, Antonio?
Yeah, no, I couldn't, dude. Like the whole facility shuts down. You're like, suka bliat, it's the Americans. They're shutting us down. Like, no, there's a flying saucer, Vasily.
It's Sundowners. If you could kind of explain a little bit more. Like, I've never heard of this. I don't know if I should feel embarrassed about not, but yeah, I'm pretty interested in what you're saying here. I just have never heard of it. I'm trying to look it up right now, but
it was a massive expedition. If it's the one I'm thinking of, it was a massive expedition into basically like into the Arctic.
That's this one, the McAfee. Oh,
Is it?
I think. I don't know.
Well, there's the one I'm talking about. Like multiple admirals from the UN, and then our 4-star. I think they can only go up to 4 stars in being an admiral. He was sent down there, and they all came back with reports to everybody about fighting off a UFO and losing some ships.
Yeah, and that one is the
That was right after World War II.
This is what Antarctica, right? Is that what you guys said?
Yeah.
So there's so much stuff surrounding that. Now, I was watching a different
paperclip.
Well, but a lot of like tinfoil hats say like, well, there's a no-fly zone at about 8,000 feet, and which is why
would there be a no-fly zone in Antarctica?
Yeah, that's what it was. It was Byrd. It was Admiral Byrd.
That's probably it.
I think the no-fly zone was to make space for military personnel to go down there, and I guess you could argue like, why would the military need to be there so much and so frequently? And they're constantly doing drops and whatnot. But yeah, it's pretty. I don't know. It's hard for me to speak on that when I don't really know what's going on. I've heard a whole bunch of stories though. Like they've got underground bases all throughout Antarctica. It's a neutral area, right? In terms of
it's neutral,
right? I'm sure there are actual we're not just down there, right?
Okay, so yeah, put that in your little notebook. Check out Operation High Jump.
Operation High Jump.
Is that the one that I was talking about?
This is the one in 1947 where they went up into the Arctic with like a bunch of just a bunch of assets. It was, I think they did it on like Ancient Aliens or something. They talked about it too.
Okay.
But essentially they turned back and they were like, never speak of this again.
That's the one I was talking about because they ended up fighting a UFO or some shit. So what they said.
It was like some kind of weird hollow earth theory where they went up into the Arctic and they found like this big hole and they could fly a plane through it, and there was like a city there.
That's definitely an episode.
And they were like, there was like a whole city, and you have to wonder if maybe that was like the first plan. The aliens are like, they're never coming here. Like, it's way too cold. They can't get here. We're good. And then they showed up and they're like, okay, under the ocean.
And then Captain Woodwicky shows up and finds Megatron.
Yeah, exactly. And then the whole thing just
goes Woodwicky.
Good movie.
That was funny.
Oh, man. Yeah, there's some interesting shit behind all this, man. I enjoy talking about it. Again, for those of y'all that
with questions,
right? Exactly. For those of y'all that are watching that might have the same kind of mindset that Caleb had initially, we're not saying that for sure they exist and all of these stories that we cover are pure facts. This is simply a discussion and a weighing of accounts and stories, just having fun and reviewing what may or may not have happened for real.
Speculation, as they say.
Exactly.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, it's always fun for me too, because like I have to balance my religion against my curiosity. You know, that's always a fun tightrope to walk.
Yeah,
it is. But look, if just on that topic, because I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, if God created all life and there's life here. Is that what you guys were talking about? I mean, that's kind of how I see it. Like, look, if there is other life in other areas, God created it, right? Like, that's kind of like my line of thought.
There's a very long discussion to be had there. If he created him in his own image, then what are these things? Are they demons? Yada yada yada.
Exactly.
Well, I think Gray Pilgrim said earlier. Let me try to find that. It was a very interesting point right here. Like, what Gray Pilgrim said earlier. I mean, you're not wrong. And there are some very interesting points regarding that.
There's a lot of religious folk who do believe in aliens, and they do believe that.
Well, religion stuff aside, there's just been a little bit too many accounts of this happening, and if they are here
from the beginning of time, basically,
who knows what? I mean, well, that's high speculation, tinfoil hat level, beginning of time, right?
Well,
I personally don't subscribe to the
phrase.
I don't subscribe to the aliens built the pyramids thing.
No, I'm just saying that there's actual cave drawings and things like that across the world.
Well, sure, and there's in multiple religions there's the the idea that there were people that came down from the clouds, right? And
the flaming wheel that followed Moses.
I don't know.
Well, Caleb, you're just gonna join to shit on our perspective,
right?
You're not invited. No, I'm kidding.
Well, I love that.
I'm kidding. This is my
drums up the old conversation.
This is my echo chamber. No, 100%. That is a conversation we will have at one point. How did Dogons know about Sirius B? Wow, I don't.
With you.
Okay, yeah, I was like, I have no idea what.
Oh,
sounds like a Star Trek thing. I think I'm correct.
Is it Star Trek?
Maybe. I don't know.
Caleb, I'm just messing with you.
No, you said it earlier. It's a tribe in Africa.
Oh,
I see. I know not of this. Oh, shoot,
Didn't he?
Boy.
Look up the Dogon tribe. Didn't I read that earlier? Yeah, Dogon tribe in Africa.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, this is actually really interesting because, I mean, there are a lot. How do you explain things like Göbekli Tepe being perfectly aligned with constellations?
Exactly.
Right? How do you explain the pyramids being perfectly aligned with constellations? Another one is they have on certain, I forget exactly which pyramids in the Amazon or Mexico, but they had some that had stone pools at the top of the pyramid that could reflect the water to give you the constellations. Why were they so interested in the constellations? So it's.
There's a weird one from Admiral Byrd.
Mm-hmm.
Why would we have any building frozen in ice in 1947 that's clearly under, what is that, 100 years of ice there? 200?
Interesting.
Okay, so
they were told never to talk about it.
Any last thoughts, gentlemen?
I could use a hamburger.
I'm satisfied.
Yeah, this is a shorter episode than most. I appreciate everyone for being here.
Appreciate you too, brother.
Yeah, I really enjoy these conversations. Next week, we're doing the same time. We're doing a stream on Alexander the Great. Please stop by. It'll be Caleb, myself, and Sundowners Club. It's going to be a good long episode.
It's going to be a hoot.
Yeah, it'll be really fun. So I appreciate everyone for being here, and I hope you all have a good night.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Yeah, you guys.